Welcome back. I'm here today with Ipsheeta Furtado. She is the founder of Fluid Financial. And Ipsheeta, welcome to today's show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So for the listeners, can you give us your background of, let's start on from college days and what brought you up to where you are today?
Sure. So I attended UC Berkeley, studied engineering and physics, and it was certainly a challenging subject area and major, but it really made me appreciate learning and learning some really hard stuff throughout that process. Finishing up school was not the greatest time to be an engineer. It was a pretty challenging job market, and so I actually went and looked for a position in a brand new field in finance and started doing financial operations at a broker-dealer desk in San Francisco, the west coast of the market. Quickly learned a lot of new things, experienced the whale trade, saw a very changing financial landscape and financial market, and was kind of inspired by my engineering background to essentially try to help engineer a solution.
And which year was this?
It was in 2008.
You hit the market just perfect for
right
the financial industry.
Yeah. But I was part of a small team, and so I got my hands on a lot of things and learned everything up close. And that experience sort of inspired me, even with that small team, to start a consulting firm of my own. In 2010, started up a software consultancy out in downtown Oakland, decided to stay in the Bay, and found myself learning to code. Had not done that in school, but figured I could, learn a little bit. And online, there was a ton of resources. My, peer group also was becoming really just strong in that core skill set. And so that really got us to a point where I felt capable of building software. I felt capable of building, a tech startup. And around the time that consulting firm was getting its feet under it, about year 3 or 4, is around the time that we saw firsthand probably the biggest challenge that small business faces on a regular basis, which is this cash gap. And so we were on paper doing really well and growing a business, but in the bank account and in our wallets, it didn't look the same. There was just a lot of, receivables or invoices that we had for work that we delivered, and it wasn't going to get paid out very quickly. So we were scrambling to grow the team, scrambling to get our, ground as far as the company growth was concerned, and that became really challenging. That's when my team and I took a step back and thought about what could be better about this situation. What could we potentially build to engineer a solution to this problem? And it became Fluid, is what it is now. Essentially, it was an inspiration to us in some of our darkest days of our previous business, to be able to come together and build something that could potentially help smooth out that problem.
Yes, amazing. So, and how big was your company at this time?
So at that time, we were probably just a hair under 10 people, in my previous company. And it was this point in our growth stage where we started to get all of these wonderful clients and all of this really awesome interest in what we were doing, but we couldn't take any of it. It was such an ironic situation where you see all of this awesome potential and you don't have any of the resources to do it. And so it became, a daily challenge where I was trying to come up with solutions, trying to find a way out. And having bootstrapped the company ourselves, it was pretty much, we had the options in front of us and we had the options in our network and our community, but it wasn't necessarily that easy to get past it.
Well, it's probably one of the greatest challenges of a new startup company as they begin to scale up, getting capital or liquidity to, continue to expand growth. And so I with Fluid Financial, I'm really interested in hearing how you went about solving this. But Ipsheeta, I need to take a quick break. Absolutely. And we'll be right back after these messages. I'm visiting here today with Ipsheeta Furtado. She's the founder of Fluid Financial. We'll be right back after these messages. Since you can't take your wealth with you, spend time with your family. Welcome back. I'm visiting here today with Ipsheeta Furtado. She is the co-founder of Fluid Financials. And Ipsheeta, before the break, we were talking about the inspiration for Fluid Financials and essentially how does a startup or a growing company find access to more capital or liquidity. And so tell us how you went about this company and how do you get the liquidity to give others liquidity?
Yeah, it's a little complex, but I'll try to break it down. Essentially, what we were looking at was a small business has outstanding receivables. They've got invoices that might be net 30 or net 90, and that cash is due to them, right? Their clients are expecting to process that payment, and the small business owner can sort of continue on, but it takes time to do so. And it's just an archaic accounting system that we have between businesses, and that's not necessarily going anywhere. And so what we thought as Fluid, what we could do was to bridge that gap. And the first step of that is really to bring the business owner up to an understanding of where they're at in their cash position. So what we built was a simplified cash flow management system, not to replace any accounting tools, but really a way for the decision maker, the owners of the company, to understand these are the invoices that I've got outstanding, these are the ones I'm expecting to bill for, and these are the ones I've collected on, right? Very simple, high-level view, kind of like a mint.com experience. And from that information, what we were allowing our business owners to do was to make a decision on whether they need capital right away or if they can wait. And the product that we've used in order to finance the advances on invoices is similar to a factoring product or a factoring arrangement. And all it is a way for Fluid to advance funds or basically float cash to the business owner for that invoice. And it's very fixed, right? So we're not extending credit. We're not looking at ambiguous credit scores and things like that. It's really, here's an invoice. We know that your payer is regularly scheduled. Your client is a good payer. We're going to basically advance you those funds and you can move on. The business owners obviously can see that as a really good option. And what we do is not force anyone to take financing for everything or your whole book or anything like that. It's a choice. And we think that allows people the freedom to sort of navigate their business a little bit better and find ways to use that capital most efficiently.
So do you find that you're picking and choosing the accounts that you'll advance on?
So what we do is actually a really interesting, and sometimes to the benefit of our customers, it's really interesting that we look at the credit worthiness of their clients. So if a small business owner comes to us and says, hey, look, I've been doing work for years with name brand company, it's really easy for us to go ahead and evaluate and diligence that name brand company in order to evaluate the financing opportunity. And so it's kind of a nice medium, right? Because the business owner isn't putting up their house or their car or their personal financials for evaluation. It's really their business relationship. And what we found is that those business relationships better define the creditworthiness of the transaction and the ability for us to participate.
And what's the typical transaction size that you guys want to deal with, your sweet spot?
So it runs the gamut.
Okay.
We certainly work with individual independent contractors as well as small agencies, firms, 10, 20 people. And so the size of those invoices can fluctuate based on the industry they're in as well as the frequency. But I would say, our sweet spot is a few $1,000s to tens of thousands of dollars. That's what we normally see in common invoicing with these customers.
Okay. I'm visiting here today with Ipsheeta Furtado. And Ipsheeta, I'm running up against the break again, and we'll be right back after these messages. We're visiting with Ipsheeta and her co-founder of Fluid Financials. We'll be right back after these messages.
Thank you.
I love fishing, with my family.
I think it would be easier to use a net.
It was so much fun.
The times when we are together, it makes it all the more worth it.
Having Dad teach them how to cast a fly rod, and
as long as we're doing stuff together, we're having fun.
Some people see a father and a son fishing together, while others see a succession plan. Welcome back. I'm visiting here with Ipsheeta Furtado, and she is the co-founder of Fluid Financials, and which is a new age solution to financing growing small companies. And you found filling in a gap in the market with small companies trying to get reach liquidity, and you've done it by looking at the vendors and advancing similar to a factor company, but in a different way on those, because you're not necessarily requiring the business owner to put their house on the line and stuff. But how does Fluid differ from the competitors, such as maybe like Lending Club and Cabbage? Maybe you don't consider them to be competitors, but how do they differentiate?
Yeah, no. So there's certainly a buffet of financial services on the market. Lending Club obviously started out catering to individuals and offering longer term loans. They do have a small business service now. And same with Cabbage. Cabbage has been known for small business financing and credit loans. The beauty of those products is that they are long term, right? They are for a longer than 30 days or longer than 90-day period for the business owner to really get their footing, right? And so those products work in complement, I think, with something like Fluid, right? It's certainly there's many steps that you have to take when it comes to building out a financial history and credit history as a small business owner. And I think those products do a really good job of allowing you to build that, as well as just providing a long-term source of capital. Fluid is really meant to be almost like a stopgap, right? Like it's something that business owners can rely on in a time of need. And it really is effective for business owners that are specific to invoicing and project-based work. If you were trying to buy a bunch of trucks or, ovens for a retail shop or something like that, Fluid doesn't really fit that type of service model. It's more appropriate for invoicing and specific defined amounts of capital.
So the small businesses come running to you and they say, Ipsheeta, I need money yesterday. How long would it typically take to go through your processes and screen and make sure that you're comfortable with?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think anywhere from 1 to 5 days is our typical turnaround. We do see customers coming to us being like, we needed money yesterday. And we try to sort of bring them into the fold and educate them in order to really evaluate what our capital means to them and what that relationship means, because you never want to put people in a situation where they can't recover. And so certainly a lot of our engagement at the beginning of a relationship is just about, hey, this is what we are, this is what we do, and trying to be as transparent as possible about what that means to that business owner.
And then what type of geographic boundaries do you cover?
So far we do a lot of our marketing through the web. So we get a lot of folks from all over the country, and we are a domestic only product.
Okay, so you won't go across the border.
Exactly.
and then when you're screening, is there a concentration of business within your Bay Area, local, or
it's certainly a mix. We just get high density population areas, right? So we've got a lot of folks from the Bay Area, Texas, New York, just large populations where business owners crop up.
I'm curious with your model, software based. And obviously, with today's technology, it's a little easier to go through on automated processes. But in the process of somebody coming on, they're inputting all their information into the system for you?
Yeah, no, quite a lot of it is sort of just self-served. People are able to sign up, let us know who they're working with, let us know their invoice volume, those types of information. But we do actually reach out. I mean, I think there's a real strength in building trust and getting someone on the phone pretty quickly when it comes to a financial service. Mm-hmm. And so oftentimes that's what we're ending up doing, is talking to people one-on-one, getting a feel for whether this is the right service, because that's a sort of a consultative evaluation right there, before moving forward into evaluating them for financing.
Okay, so as the entrepreneur, you've had a few years going about this. I'd like to talk about a few success stories that you've had, and then maybe let's go the other way. The things that you learned, hard lessons learned, and what you don't want to do again.
Of course, yeah. So successes, I mean, getting this far with a startup company is certainly something that my team and I can be proud of. Also, being able to scratch our own itch and work on a product that we have felt deeply about is certainly a privilege. I think that those things really shape how we wake up every morning and keep on tackling. As far as challenges, I think the biggest thing that I've learned from the 2 companies that I've started is a lot of the opportunity and a lot of the choices that you get to make, the options that you get, are really a function of how you build the knowledge around it. One of the things I noticed between starting my previous consulting firm and starting Fluid was at the firm, I didn't have a board. I didn't have advisors. I was learning everything firsthand. Starting Fluid, I started the company without a deep knowledge and credit or anything like that. And bringing on advisors from that field and from the industry was immensely helpful because they've seen the problems. They've gone through the challenges before you. And at least you've got, someone to commiserate with, if not learn from.
Okay. So we're running short on time here. So Ipsheeta, if someone wants to learn how to get in touch with you or reach out to you to become a customer of Fluid Financial, how would they go about doing that?
Yeah, so absolutely. They can visit www.choosefluid.com. And there's a sign-up form online. If they have any questions, they're also able to reach us at either support@choosefluid.com or ipsheeta@choosefluid.com.
I've been visiting here today with Ipsheeta Furtado, and she's a co-founder of Fluid Financial. Ipsheeta, thanks for being on today's show.